hello, community creatives and kind folks out there. It is technically Future Friday. I am a day off of the normal schedule because I wanted to do insert a special episode to honor the late great Stan Lee, Stan the Man. So today, although it's Friday, this is Future Friday, and we will end our week talking about the arts and incorporating the arts into our role-playing settings. Now, before I get really deep into that, I'd like to do a little preamble so that the people can get into the chat and the link can go out and get propagated and whatnot. So I wanted to address of J.K. Joseph Keenan, who responds quite heavily into the comment section, talking about what is behind me. This photographer's, I guess, or broadcaster's screen or something. So there are two poles that hold this up. You cannot see them because I have it set up so that you can't see the edges. But this is a screen that I've ordered. It's a space station, and you got the whole gravity well thing, and like the interior of like maybe an asteroid or something like that. But the question was, I also have cats, and sometimes the cats can go a little bit crazy. I've got Sophie right here. You could probably hear her in the background. She's looking for some attention because my voice is raised and I'm not petting her. And he asked about do the cats go a little crazy wanting to go after this thing? Actually, it's not even them going after it. Although, to be honest with you, since it does hang off the floor, they can kind of like, see if you can see my fingers down here a little bit. Right here is about the edge of it. And so they might slap at it a little bit. It's not really a big deal. What the biggest deal is, see if I can pull a piece here. The biggest deal is that the very edges of it, when it is printed and cut, creates these little hanging, dangling shads. And so you got to watch out for those. I've got to cut some more off of here. Some kitties like to look at the dangling shads and then maybe even swallow them. So if you got one of these kitties, it's like, if it's dangling out there, I'm going to put it in my mouth. You have to worry about that. So that's really the biggest thing. Other than trying to knock it down, I don't use weights on it at all. The base of them is like a tripod effect. Just that is just wide and doesn't knock them down. Okay, enough for that preamble. Future Friday, talking about the arts. Also, many comments that were left in, because we've been talking about the arts all week. Now, when we get to Future Friday, we can talk about like modern day into the future. And one of the things brought up was that he brings up is locations like New York's Soho. Mentions the movie. Oh, come on, where's the movie at? I can't find it. Sorry, I can't. Trying to do it very quickly, but was just talking about having a location where you have a lot of specifically like an artistic district in your world. And of course it's Future Friday. So like in modern day culture, we have places that are like artistic districts, like, we think of Broadway or, the movie studios in Hollywood. Is talking about Soho, where you have places with like, art and paintings and sculptures and people doing like spoken word and poetry and such. Tessa Ranger says, can't talk about future art without the holodeck. Ever notice how stagnant the arts were in the Next Generation? And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I kind of wondered the same thing. Not necessarily the Next Generation, but science fiction in general. I've noticed that the further you get away from modern day, the far less important the arts seem in these future cultures. And listen, on a practical level, I get where some people, I mean, you even PCs or stuff, you're playing a game and you're just like, well, let's see, do I want to buy, a designer jacket, or do I want to buy armor piercing rounds? Do I really need to buy and do I want to spend my credits on a rare painting, or do I need a upgraded power armor suit? Right? It's the practicality effect, but I think the arts are hugely downplayed in science fiction, and I think mainly it's because science fiction is far more speculative. Science fiction tends to either be it's full of what ifs. It's taking something and taking it to the extreme. What if we were all downloaded into a computer? What if aliens came to our galaxy and tried to invade? What if? And then and so the arts are so complicated and so subjective. I think they don't go into it. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be there or they're wrong. I think just science fiction is far more speculative than more modern day context or things in the past. Also, sometimes science fiction tends to go the opposite and go internal. Like, what if you were the only person left on a space station, and or what if you're the last human in a or the last person surviving in a post-apocalyptic location. But that's not to say that it's not included in it, right? Usually it's either not there at all, or it's completely hyper focused. Happy belated birthday. I'm still living it. Yesterday, I gotta thank everybody for putting out a ton of birthday well wishes. Unfortunately, I couldn't respond to all of them. I had a 13-hour workday yesterday. It was brutal, and the only thing that got me through it was all the birthday well wishes. Thank you so much for keeping my energy up, because I would just get these Facebook pings and private messages and a phone call, and I would see things posted on my wall on Facebook, and it just warmed my heart. So, I mean, it was cold yesterday and snowy and whatever. So yes, I wrapped it around myself like a warm blanket. Thank you. So it seems like the arts are one of those things where it's either completely ignored, like Tesla Ranger just mentioned about the holodeck in the Next Generation, right? It's you have these stark walls. No one dresses differently, really. You might find the odd hairstyle, maybe, but no one no one even cuts their uniform. I know you're not allowed to, but my point being is that even in their quarters, they might have a rock from a special planet, maybe a small toy, but not very much. And sure, a military vessel probably would have strict rules and regulations on that, because you don't really want too much individuality. But even most of the other spaceships really aren't like that, right? People aren't very personalized until you get to the holodeck, in which case, the holodeck lets them which I can imagine that being a thing where it's look, I can't have any individuality here, but I'm going to the holodeck, or maybe there's VR goggles, or people have interface plugs. You just take the plug and plug it in the back of your neck or into your wrist or whatever it is, into your temple, and you're able to go into another world and spend hours there, even though you're only doing 5 minutes of downtime or something like that. I mean, that's very possible too. Hey, I was just talking about you right behind your back. Joseph Keenan says art might be different too, like graffiti murals. I've seen some nice ones. Fits with underground movements talked about before, and I think it kind of seems like as we go towards modern and science fiction that it's so stark that when the arts are brought into it, it becomes hyper focused, right? So let's take modern day. Modern day, you have your typical art heist, right? Where you have a diamond worth $10 million. You have a painting worth $50 million, right? You have I don't know, the Declaration of Independence, a document, the actual document that is, worth, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, these priceless things. And so in the modern context, I think you see it very often in terms of heists, or in terms of the value given to a particular family or time period where you have like a war and a family or a business has lost a very valuable piece of art to the people that they had a conflict in the other side of the war, and they want to go to the courts to get it back and have it returned to them. Or you have a gentleman who's a family that's extremely rich, and they brag about all the artistic things that they've purchased and spread around their mansion, and they kind of show it off, and during dinners or when they talk to people that are lesser than them, they kind of say, hey, I acquired this painting, blah 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 blah, and I spent $80 million on it, as if it was nothing, just to prove a point. That it seems to be that seems to be the big thing. Also, when we starts to flow into far more future settings, it seems that the artistic value we have today also becomes hyper focused, where, let's say, what's the movie, Fifth Element, there was an alien singer, or even hell, I think one of the best examples of incorporating it was Star Wars, the cantina, right? The cantina, that, I mean, to me, that came about. It was just like, wait, I guess aliens would be just jazz players in a seedy bar, right? I mean, that felt like it was so lived in. It was dirty and grungy and stuff. And that was the first time I really saw like hey, this is just a regular society. Sure, they're aliens and it's on an alien planet, but it was very incorporated into the culture. You don't really see that much in a lot of speculative fiction or even space opera fiction, where you have a cantina styled thing. Lucas was, I believe, one of the first, I don't want to say the first, but one of the first that really incorporated the mundane in the reality, and that became a thing. So like in the movie Fifth Element, you have the alien woman who's like singing, and she's got like this 12 octave voice or something, and she's like dancing with the blue skin and like the tentacles off of her. And I find that in the future it could be the possibility, and I'm going to go to Joseph Keenan's point that he made in one of the comment section, where maybe people travel far and wide because they don't have the arts where they're at. They're on a space station or they're on a intergalactic ship, and it's friggin' boring. I mean, sure, they have maybe VR goggles or holodeck rooms, but after a while, it's like, oh, it's the same chess game. It's the same all the time. And I think even today, we're talking about the dangers of sending people to Mars, because it's such a long time, and the psychological impact of that, and trying to come up with things for them to do. I would suggest sending some role-playing games, right? I mean, just to have something to get your mind off of what's going on, because you're in this tiny little bubble or canister with people that might start to rub you the wrong way. Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. Dead Man the Storyteller says the fiction anthology After the Fall has several stories about that. Yeah, I mean, I After the Fall, I'm going to take a look at that. But you know what? The stories of loneliness and isolation, and I believe the idea that being able to see the vastness of space kind of makes you feel smaller. It's like when you're surrounded by people and buildings. Because I grew up in a big city, and it's concrete and there's a whole bunch of people, and you feel like there's always commotion around you. And so although your world feels smaller, it also feels fuller. There's always a corner store. There's row homes everywhere. There's always people doing things. But when you leave that and go, for me, when I go far into a more suburban and rural area, when I moved to central Columbus, Ohio, when you travel through places where you just see like large farmlands and big sky country, and traveling out into the wilderness, you start to feel smaller because you realize how big the world is. And I can imagine anyone who's seen how big the world is goes into out in outer space would feel overwhelmed. And so finding things that are familiar to you or make you feel like you're part of a community would absolutely be a thing. Joseph Keenan brings up the fact of gypsies and like scum barges kind of thing. So in Eclipse Phase, because originally this was called Eclipse Phase Fridays. In Future Friday, now it's called Future Friday. But in Eclipse Phase, there are these group of people called the Scum, and that's actually their title. And in the game wise, it's actually a class, not class, but it's like a profession called Scum. But let me get to the point. There are gypsies that travel the solar system, and these gypsies are basically, in individuals that do not fit into society, and they collect in these ships, and they come in all shapes and sizes. I would gather that there's maybe swarms of ships that are lashed together, or they travel around in groups, and they want to be completely independent of society, but in order for them to earn some credits and some money and to get some work and to make some the Scum are a faction. Thank you. In Eclipse Phase. Dead man always bringing me back to I need to hire you. Let's see. Fact checker Deadman. I call you Deadman, but I would prefer to call you the Dead Man, the storyteller. So the faction, while being independent, and society kind of considering the Scum to be like, you don't want to mess with them. They're dirty. They're criminals. They're uncouth. You don't want to bother with them. The fact of the matter is, society needs them, and they need society. So they come close to space stations and habitats and things, and they do the dirty work, right? They clean, they clean the outside of starships, they clean the air scrubbers, I'm sure. But along with them being gypsies, they bring with them art and culture and drugs and dancing and music and things that they're missing. And along with those other things, they bring with them gossip and spies and information from other places to allow these isolated habitats to kind of like, get a little crazy and whatnot. It's like a blow off valve. Every culture needs a blow off valve. It's the classic red light district, right? But in space. So you have all these individuals that are, uptight and, we just do everything perfect. It's always ordered. And then here come the gypsies, here come the Scum. And it's like, whoo, I get to let my hair down and party hard, or, people getting into seductive constellations, going off on their own to have, sexual trysts with each others and multiples, or aliens, or all three, or any combination thereof, and it's a way for them to get rid of it. Now, like Joseph Keenan says, art was a plot point in a Larry Niven short. I love Larry Niven. The general dynamics holes were transparent to visual light. One alien race painted X-ray paintings. Poor human was near a neutron star or black hole. I remember the general dynamics holes were created by the puppeteers, and they were completely indestructible. Essentially, they could like fall into a star and they would not be broken. And then the engine systems and navigation systems and all that were actually formed on the outside. Now I love like the idea of an alien race painting in X-rays, or like thermal imaging, infrared or ultraviolet light, or having music that went into the super ultra high or sub frequencies. That would be really pretty interesting, especially if you have aliens that, where they speak with pheromones or something. That'd be kind of sweet. And to have this how to explain it? Like, people would have a desire for the old things. For example, going back to eclipse phase again, there were people who would go back to Earth, which was in eclipse phase, Earth is completely destroyed, and gather things like bottle caps and postage stamps and old paper money, fragments from the covers of comic books, little scraps, and people would make them into jewelry to have these little scraps from old Earth. You know, the covers of CDs, or even old CDs. They didn't even care what was on it. It's just having an old CD and hanging it in their room because it had a value to it. And now, mind you, they didn't really have a mechanic for it, but they really wanted to institute this thing where a person who has a little button on their thing that has, like, their favorite soda or their favorite pop as a button, as a piece of jewelry, was a big deal because it came from old Earth and it was very dangerous to go get it. Joseph Key says, food. How far would a crew travel for a steak or sushi when they're forced to eat protein bars and synthetic food? Yeah, man. Yeah, oh, nostalgia. It was nostalgia jewelry, like in eclipse phase. But I guarantee you, like, there's only so many times you can eat that gray extruded, soy block that you squeeze the flavor juices onto till it just gets too old and just like, oh, yet another, extruded, I don't know, calcium combination nutrient bar or something. Yeah, people nowadays travel far and wide to gather food, going far beyond. Like, you can go to the supermarket and buy food, yet we gather together with friends and family. We want a different flavor profile because we haven't had something in a while. So absolutely, culinary effects, especially in the future, would be a big deal. What if there's a space habitat where they grow, like, the space habitat is a big ring, and on the inside it's real farming, like with cows and chickens and fishing, and the very antiseptic spaceships and habitats people are normally used to. When they go there, they can smell like the dung and the feces and stuff, and there's bugs flying around, and that might be a new thing, including maybe parasites and diseases as well. That would be great too, to show that dichotomy, because in space, everything's recycled, everything has to be clean, and eating a real steak might be considered kind of criminal. Hey, we don't kill animals anymore. This is the far future is culture. This is our culture. You're kind of a barbaric individual. Prue says they might also arrive with aura, ideas, independent news that the authorities can't control. Another reason why traveling factions might be vilified. And absolutely, at first I absolutely agree with you that they might be carrying around ideas of freedom the authorities don't want these space gypsies to have. But on the other hand, they might benefit from it because they're able to allow their population to get that release valve off, so that when gypsies leave, they go back to having another yearly cycle of just working hard because they know next year they'll be back. Or they're able to kind of kick off the dissidents, send their problems away very easily. Like, oh, you guys want to leave? Yeah, go ahead, leave, please leave, because you're disrupting my my regime here, as well as getting secrets and spies and backstabbing, maybe buying things or trading for things that are quite dangerous. And I'm talking about, like, the regime. Maybe there are special types of drugs that they can put in the food of the people to pacify them, and they can get them from these gypsies or whatnot. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you, but I also think there might be an incentive not to, like, blow them out of space. You know what I mean? Prue says, food. Remember when Book has fresh produce to offer in exchange for traveling south? South of Serenity and Firefly. It was very popular. Yeah, Book, the the mysterious clergyman slash probably assassin or something like that. Yeah. Tesla Ranger says in the pilot episode of Firefly, Shepard Book paid for his passage with fresh fruits and veggies, and I could almost guarantee those fresh fruits and veggies in that time were worth a hell of a lot. I mean, could you imagine being able to, like, I think it would be very cool to have an underground where they open up their jacket, and instead of seeing like, blaster weapons or something, you see, fresh bananas and oranges, and the people were just like, oh, an apple, I'll give you anything. I've got, I don't know, computer programs and ways to hack into into databases and things like that. I'll trade anything for a fresh apple or something. Yeah. Joseph Keenan says, yeah, the fresh food would be a good trade or bribe item like the chocolate bars in the World War II movies. Yes, absolutely. A side note, I remember a time when M&M's, Hershey's was a big one that gave chocolate bars to soldiers in World War II, because my grandfather had there was a metal tin that had the chocolate Hershey's bars, and they would put the Hershey bar in a metal tin because, of course, if it wasn't in the metal tin and you put it in your uniform, it would melt, it would get crushed up. So they had these metal tins, and I don't have that. And they are extremely valuable to today, because they used to, after eating the chocolate in the metal tin, they would put things like razors and toothpicks, photographs and letters and things like that inside the metal tin. Since it wouldn't flex, it could survive, and even if they dropped it, they could hear it. So they would put it in their uniforms. But from what I understood, and I think this might have even been a wives' tale, but M&Ms were also sent to soldiers because they had a harder shell and they wouldn't melt, and you could actually spill M&Ms on the dashboard of like vehicles or planes and things and still eat them. And that the color red was removed from it so that you wouldn't mistake the red M&Ms for a red button. Now, I don't know how true that is. I think the more logical thing was that the red was a dye that they just couldn't quite put into the food. But there was a wives' tale out there, urban legend of sorts, that the red M&Ms would look like red buttons, so they took out the red dye and just had the regular M&Ms back in the World War II. Yeah, Josie, glasses gone. His character was going to be so great. You know what? And even in the world of Firefly, like how Firefly didn't go into it so much, but what a great down to earth, Western in space type of series. That, oh, sorry guys. Wow, I forgot that I had my alarm set. I'm so unprofessional. All right. But having what's the companion on the cast, Baccarin, what is her first name? The actress that played the companion is a form of art in the Firefly series. Joseph says the dye was supposed to cause cancer, I thought. Yeah, I'm not going to look it up right now. And I'm sure what I said was, like I said, an urban legend. It could be that the red dye caused cancer. Of course, you're not going to want to put that out there anyway. And Deadman says the red dye was carcinogenic, though they have found a non-carcinogenic dye, and that's probably what happened, right? You get this, you put this red dye in it, causes cancer, and then it's like, well, once you find a dye that doesn't do that, how many people are going to eat your M&Ms? So yeah, Marina Baccarin, yeah. Oh wow. Anyway. Yeah, air quotes, the Bible's clear about killing, not so clear about shooting kneecaps. Yeah, love that show. But the even in that show, the companion profession in itself was very much an art, right? Prue says Inara was very well versed in the arts, and the idea of the companions, geishas, um, even the idea of a person who was expert in all social arts is a thing, right? Yeah, they were more geisha, not hookers, right? Absolutely. And in a far future realm, why wouldn't that exist? You know, you have this individual whose entire job, really profession, is to entertain you, whether it's a conversation or meeting someone new, you know, spreading, here we go with the gossip, heard it, listening to you basically uh, staying quiet while you bitch about your crewmates, you know, on these long voyages and whatnot. And of course, you know, there's we are animals, base animals, and unless you've completely negated that using like some kind of computer technology or psychological editing or chips in your brain or downloading or something like that, we also have base desires, you know, eat, sleep, food, hunt, you know, sexual desires as well. And so they very well would become extremely valuable individuals, even going so far as to want to kidnap them or threaten them. Although I'm sure there would be a large part of society that would not want them harmed because they would be needed to keep society on an even keel. Yeah, Josephine says like how the samurai were more than just a hired sword. Yeah, I brought up the samurai as far as like having skills in the arts to keep them on an even keel. One of my martial arts instructors even suggested that it was a brilliant idea for its time to have your greatest warriors trained in the so-called air quotes softer arts because it allowed them to exercise their demons, and that something should be incorporated in modern day military, to have the military have to, you know, read books or poetry or express themselves with in the arts, whether it's painting or short stories or something like that. So I don't know how that would work. But anyway, that's a side note. Something else that happens with arts in the future is how valuable it becomes. Like I mentioned before about a diamond that's worth millions of dollars or paintings worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And a lot of times that art becomes it symbolizes something. It'll symbolize like freedom. It symbolizes arrogance. It'll symbolize money. It could symbolize a dead culture, whether you go to an alien planet and there's something on the alien planet that's been left there from years ago. It's the idea of someone stealing the, you know, United States stealing the American flag that's been planted on the moon, right? You know, the flag itself is, you know, maybe $10 at the most, right? But stealing it would be worth far more in terms of harming a cultural, iconic mission, a manifest destiny, if you will, and people would take that personally, and you know, go to hunt that person down who stole this flag that was, you know, where a museum gets built around the flag that's still left up there on the moon or something, you know, 5 or 6 generations from now, you know, that they would try to hunt that individual down. Also, we can go into new types of art. You can even include sports in there as well. I mean, there might be, like mentioned before, about using X-rays to paint the sides of buildings or something. You know, using high energies that only certain people can see, or nano paints that allow someone to paint a mural on the side of a building and it changes by temperature or by the daylight that's cast on it, or it changes periodically, hour by hour, and people watch it, you know, happening. Poo says, what's the vampire heritage from Vampire the Masquerade that might be obsessed with art and beauty? It was the Toreador. The Toreador were obsessed with art and beauty, whether it was like the beauty of individuals, and they kind of hinted that the Toreador vampires themselves in many ways were cursed to not have as much artistic talent, but that mortals had much more of it, which I mean, that wasn't exactly a rule, but it kind of hinted towards that, right? They had this extreme art appreciation for eternity, but they themselves would not create everlasting art. Now, of course, they had the, you know, the brutal, you could go towards the darker sides where they were doing like body horror and torturing and things like that. Yeah, skinless corpses. Joseph Keenan says Lovecraft and Barker, the horror arts. Farting on the titles. Yeah. The Hellraiser movies were very much like that, where, you know, it dealt with pain and pleasure. So you very much could have this idea where, how do you say, like something that we kind of throw off and think, and you know, it's no big deal because we have a lot of arts. In the future, it might be very, very valuable. Like, oh, what's the name of jingles? Sometimes you hear a commercial or there's like cartoons and they have these little jingles. Oh, the Dead Man Says the Cube, Pickman's Model, yeah, the Hellraiser movies. I would even put in maybe not Fantasia. There was an orb with a blade on it that used to fly around and smack you in the head and suck your brains out. Oh man, I can't remember the name of that movie too. But yeah, the Phantasm movies. So yeah, I mean, if that, and that's quite surreal, right? That's, you can even make that into like other dimensions where you know, it's painful for us, but it sure is entertaining for other people. Also, there might be a kind of a decadence in the future where people have lived long enough, like vampires have lived long enough. Maybe there's a immortality has been reached, like an eclipse phase. Immortality has been reached. You just download your brain and you download yourself, put your into another cortical stack, into another body, and you now live forever. There might be a kind of decadence that happens. They kind of go into this in Altered Carbon on Netflix. Well, at least it's on Netflix here in the States, but where the people are so rich that they start engaging in these very sadomasochistic things just to entertain themselves. And that might be the big bad, right? It might be a cultural thing where humanity's trying to rise above the rise into the gravity well, go up the gravity well off the planet, but living in these floating cities or space habitats are these rich folk who are like pretty much bastards. I mean, they're like a-holes. They are not recognized as being human any longer because they're just so nasty. You know, maybe they just have like torture clubs or, you know, pedophilia rooms or something like that. You know, even if they are like artificial robots or something like that. Dead Man Says the aerostats. Yeah, the floating cities were considered aerostats. Apparently, there's a possibility of creating aerostats in gas giants or thick atmospheres like Venus, where you're using oxygen and other gaseous things are lighter weight than the gases on the planets, and you can float an object like you can float an ocean liner, but instead you're floating it on a thick atmosphere. Joseph Keenan says sickness, the gap cycle. Is that a thing? I mean, is that a syndrome? People altered and they put on shows where they self-mutilate themselves a bit like a strip show. Yeah, there was a short story edited by George R.R. Martin called The Death Artist, where it was, there were these performers that did those things, and this person was he was known as a death artist, and he would commit suicide, and it was done telling a story. Like in one of the stories, he's in the Arctic Circle or something, and he ends up running out of food, and he cuts himself open to allow his pet wolf to, you know, eat him, and it was pretty nasty. But it was like, wow. Joseph Keene said, great stories of novels, but they have some sick and evil characters. Yeah. And, there's the idea that recapturing one's humanity the arts might be needed to do that, to recapture it. And there would be people, I'm sure there would be people who would find it very valuable to keep those arts around. And so, like, bringing back the idea of the gypsies, but now, of course, we can kind of flow into, say, a post-apocalyptic world. On the other hand, there might be plenty of people who feel like, people who engage in the arts are kind of wasting their time. Stephen R. Donaldson novels. Might have to look that up. Even today, we have people who, when you're trying to struggle, engaging in the arts may feel like a waste of time for many people in their culture. Like, hey, you need to stop that street dancing and get a real job. You need to stop playing those video games and get a real job. You need to, I know you want a singing career. You got a great voice, but the majority of people fail. I think you need to get a real job. And so that may be a thing in the future where you have these great artists, but there's a lot of people around, especially those in power that are going, look, I don't really have time for you to engage in these artistic pursuits. You need to get back to, scrubbing the HVAC system or something like that, or, putting these new panels on the outside because we keep getting pelted by space debris. I know you want, another 100 songs for your music collection, but we don't really have time for you to leave your position right now. And that might be a point of contention when the leaders are like, we need to have people working 16-hour days, and the people are like, we need a break. I just want to get a drink or dance or something. Prue says, yeah, altered carbon is cool. That decadence is just the natural extension of what a certain type of very rich people do right here, right now. And you are so right. It's weird how easily people can fall into wanting to buy and sell human beings and use them as playthings. I mean, even today, there are people who want to kill things just for the fun of it. Endangered animals just to have a picture taken with it because they blew it away with their high-powered rifle and all their greater technology going after an animal that there's no way it could survive. And then they're like, hey, this is cool. Look at me, and how hard would it be to, when you become ultra rich, to, buy and sell people? There's people who are paid off all the time to be bought and sold today, to do things for them. And yeah, it's just a natural extension of that decadence, I think. And very much so in altered carbon, it's like, hey, people can live forever with their cortical stacks, but we have a place where we promise those people who, what is it? A culture of people who volunteer to be killed, abused, and tortured and killed by the rich, with the rich knowing that they will not come back in their cortical stacks. I mean, it's like, why? What? Are you that sick? And it's like, yeah. Joseph Keenan says, art overload, because of things like YouTube and other streaming services, instant pop stars and fads coming and going at the drop of a hat. And now that's a big thing too. Disposable art. Today we even talk about 15 minutes of fame, disposable music. Hey, music on the radio all sounds the same. Those kind of things. The individuals that rise and fall, and the toll it takes on the individuals that rise and fall from their extreme fame for doing what they do. Right. Sometimes, how many of us have seen someone or something that we feel like, hey, that artist, I love that artist, and then that artist changes something about them. They get plastic surgery to change their face. They change their music to become more mass produced. An actor, falls into drugs or something, and you're scratching your head like, why did they change? I like them the way they are. But maybe they felt such, huge pressures from outside to maintain. How hard is it to maintain popularity in a time and era where it's things come and go like the wind. People's popularity comes and goes. Yeah, Joe said, need a random pop star or fad chart now. Hey, roll on the random chart and your 15 minutes is up. See ya. What was it? Oh, I can't remember the name of the group. Uh, Sugarfly or something like. Anyway, the title one of their albums was 1459. It was yeah, D1000 table. Yeah, they were accused of being a pop band, and then they basically like threw it back in people's faces with the title of their album called 1459. It was like, here's the countdown to us disappearing. Now they finally did disappear. But the point being, like, everybody disappears. But the point being is like, there could be this massive industry built. Well, there's already a massive industry built around popularity. Like you said, YouTube, Hollywood, it is an entire industry unto itself that's based around what have you done for me lately? Are you a good writer? Fine. You've written 5 great things. Okay, your 6th one sucks. Get out of here. We need somebody else. Are you a great actor or actress? Great. You've acted in this thing. Oh, that last thing sucked. Get out of here. We need somebody else. The beautiful people, right? The great model who's popular for a year and then disappears. Like, we don't even have really supermodels much anymore. Actually, a lot of the older supermodels are making a comeback. How about the idea of just aging away? Hollywood has a huge problem with aging out females, right? It's, hey, if you're older than 25, you're gone. And they are starting to change, which always blows my mind. I'm just like, if someone is attractive at their age, does it really matter? And there are older women now that are starting to finally find their footing, but Hollywood's notorious for that. Like, there are very few older people Blink around. Joseph Keenan says Blink 182 being a satire band or Afro Man, because Got High being taken the exact opposite way it was supposed to be. That is now, see, you're going into something else where an art is created, but it is taken it's taken in the wrong direction, or thought of as being subversive or insidious, or promoting something that was actually meant to promote the opposite. How many times has society taken someone like an Eminem or a Lady Gaga, and at first they're like, oh, they suck, we hate what they do, I don't understand what they mean, and then immediately flip on the other side. We love them. We want to invite them. We want to have them with us. I mean, that just happens so often. Something is different. I hate it. That something is now cool. I love it. And completely forget. It's almost as if nobody was on the I hate Eminem bandwagon who instantly flipped to the I love Eminem bandwagon. To the who? Eminem who? Is he still relevant anymore? You know what I mean? It's unfortunate, but that's the case when it comes to extreme things. I mean, hell, we even have a category. They're called one-hit wonders, right? I mean, you could get on your favorite music streaming service and type in, one-hit wonder playlist, and hear all these songs that were made by people, and those artists are like pissed off, like, man, hey, I'm a great songwriter. Why hasn't anybody listened to my other 50 songs? Instead of always going, do-ra, 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 yeah. Dexy's Midnight Runners. Yeah, an individual that was pissed off that except for the one-hit wonder, didn't really get credit for the other songs that were written. Now, there are some people who dive into it, like, hey, I did a one-hit wonder, and I have no problem singing my one-hit wonder for the next 35 years. But that's a thing. Now, we are talking about the future. And one possibility that I brought up before was to coworkers, was that, what if there's a way, kind of like we're doing a full circle thing. What if AI is able to analyze the thing? Vanilla ice, yeah, ice, baby. Up, time's up. See ya. What if there's a way for computers to analyze the very nature of the things that make you not just addicted, but like hypnotized? Okay, for example, what if someone can find out the exact tonation that draws you in, the exact sounds, the exact voice or colors, the images, and incorporate all of that to become like a mimetic programming. You know, today we have memes. It's basically a simplified visual thing to send someone that has a greater gives a greater thought, right? Most of it's funny, some of it can be thought provoking, but in the future, like in bringing up eclipse phase again, there are people who are memetics, right? um People who are experts at creating memes, creating viral information that propagates through a culture. And much of that is the study of, maybe there is a sound frequency that can really hypnotize you. Maybe there are phrases that are used that really draw you in. Maybe there are images, symbols that subconsciously make you want to indulge in whatever artistic pursuit is out there. And it could be that there are people not only just creating this like pop culture disposable stuff, but it is super addictive to people. And the PCs are like, you know, out there trying to stop it, or it could be competing. There could be competing elements, entertainers that are trying to capture just 5 more minutes of people's attention because the next best thing is coming along. And how hard would it be? Like even now, I'll use myself as an example, right? Ooh, Using myself as an example, I do a live stream basically Monday through Friday, plus, well, I guess you could say Monday through Saturday now. I do a live stream. I have subscribers. You guys, we interact on the chat. We are doing our thing. Now, of course, there are ways for me to make myself far more popular. If I put kittens and boobs and say the best or worst, top best or worst in thumbnails, or like talk about whatever is popular today, I would probably get a lot more attention drawn into me, even by doing like clickbait, which is a thing. You know, clickbait is specifically designed to elicit images that get an individual to want to click on it to go for more, so that the clicks become a value amongst themselves. Oh, I get 100,000 clicks, you know, a week on what I'm creating because people click into it because it stimulates something. Oh, it's an image I've seen. Oh, it's a title of something. Oh, it's something I hate. It doesn't even matter if you dislike it. Oh, I hate what they have to say. Click, and then it becomes a value. So for me, there are ways to punch through to become bigger, but then it's like, you know, then it's the idea of how big do you want to be? What do you want to do to get that big? And so, you know, it's very difficult to punch through in social media. You know, we tend to think of social media as the great equalizer, but also it can make people feel very small. Someone wants to yell out. It's like if you were by yourself and you yell out into an echo chamber, maybe you're standing at the Grand Canyon and you can hear your voice echoing back. It sounds cool. You're the only person out in nature. You yell out into the echo chamber. You go, hello, and you hear your voices, hello, hello, and it comes back and it feels awesome. If there's 10,000 people standing next to you trying to yell out the same thing, it's like, what is this going on? I can't hear my own voice, let alone being drowned out by these other people. And I don't feel special anymore. You know, I don't feel like I'm in God's country anymore because I'm just one of them of 10,000 other people. And so I also feel like people may feel like they are insignificant and may engage in things to make themselves feel special. We're kind of going through that here in the States now with people psychologically needing to do these shootings to draw attention to their whatever it is that they desire for the public to hear. And there's so much of a cacophony of people speaking to them and them being drowned out and not being heard, that they feel like the only way to be heard is murder, right? Then now people will pay attention. Bruce says, remember in the 90s when KLF analyzed what it takes to make a hit record and then just effing succeeded in the first go? Brilliant. You know what? And there are hit makers today. I think many of them are, I want to say that they are Swedish or Dutch. Shit. Oh, I was just listening to a podcast about it. There are these individuals covering my mouth, something unprofessional, who are hit makers, and their job is to make hits for some of the most popular pop artists out there, and they figured out how to do it. They figured out, there are camps. They call them podcasts, stuff they don't want you to know, and there are creative camps where they come up with catchy phrases and music beats and stuff, and a lot of them sound very similar to the next one because it's something that catches people's eye and catches people's ear, and they start stomping their foot to it for whatever reason, and it just becomes very popular. Joseph Keenan says, I think the AI artists would be a bit like marketing teams, might appeal with a mass market, but it tastes and opinions are lies, buttholes. Everyone has one and is different. You like mushrooms, I like sausage, she likes extra cheese. But remember, the insidious nature of an AI is that instead of blanketing everyone with the same advertising, an AI could specifically target you with a type of advertisement that is different than the next person, right? So imagine people walking around with the, like, what do you call that? You could have advertisements in your ear and in your optical nerve, right? So you have an implant. So when you go into a store, you walk down the street, you can have advertisements or directions or things implant directly sent into your optical nerve and audio nerves. And so as people are walking down the street, when they walk into the supermarket, they're going to get bombarded with things that specifically appeal to them, because they think about it. Amazon and Netflix and Google already does that now, right? Hey, you looked up this other thing. Let's say Amazon, you looked up these t-shirts. Here's some other people who've purchased t-shirts similar to the ones you had. Netflix, here's some movies we recommend you like because of your interest in these 10 other things. And Deadman, the storyteller, says, and Trappings, right? Yeah, there's, who knows how advanced an AI system could be to predict something for you. I'm sure there are advertisers out there right now ready to put into our phones, not just what we think we might like, but to, let's say you go to a restaurant and you walk in the door. AI wants to get to the point where the person says, oh, I have your window seat ready for you because that's where you like to sit. And we've already ordered for you your favorite meal. We thought you'd like that because every Thursday you tend to order pizza. So we've already taken the opportunity to order for you your favorite pizza and your favorite table to sit by the door, right? To presuppose what you want before you want it, and then find out that you've always wanted it in the first place. Prue says, we're all continuously being told that we and our individuality, opinions, and feelings are extremely important and completely insignificant simultaneously. Hell yeah. I feel like this is very an unhealthy trend. Absolutely. Life of brain. We're all individuals. And it's like, there is a value in being collective, right? There's a value in choosing to be collective. Hey, let's all work together to clean up the street. Let's all work together to raise a barn. Let's all work together to keep our community together. Let's all work together to make a movie or write a book or something. It's great to feel like you feel part of a community. And at the same time, you don't want to feel like you're forced to be part of the community. You know what I mean? And then being told, hey, you're an individual. You need to express yourself individual in your opinions. You're a valued individual. You need to go out there and do what it takes. And like Bruce says, and simultaneously, once you try to do that, you're like felt like you're insignificant. Why are you pursuing your music career? That's stupid. Get a real job. You're like, wait a minute, you just told me to pursue my dreams. Well, you could pursue your dreams on your own time. You need to get out my way. You're just a waste of time. That kind of stuff. Joseph Keenan's, by the way, I'm actually pretty pro AI and transhumanism. I am too. I'm pro cautionary transhumanism. Bruce says AIs are taking away player agency in real life. Yeah, you know what? It's sometimes I get annoyed with the AIs that tell me here's something that you might be interested in, because I'm like, maybe I'm interested in something else, right? Like, don't tell me what I'm interested in. I'll tell you what I'm interested in. Damn, forgot there was, Rickard says, damn, forgot it was a stream today. Hey, what's up, Rickard? Bruce brings up a great point. It's amazing when done right. I just don't trust that I don't trust that it will be done right. Yeah, it's like, hey, people are working on making humanity immortal. And then at the same time, it's like, yeah, but who gets to be immortal first, right? Hey, we're going to come up with science and medical technologies that are going to save everyone. And you're like, okay, it's going to save people, but when does it trickle down to me? You know what I mean? That's the thing. DBJ, Keenan said, DBJ, that is what's missing, watching out for each other and a sense of community. We brought this up on another stream previously. It could be information overload. It's a possibility that maybe we weren't designed to have, like, in our hand, here's my phone, right? This gives me access to the sum total of all information currently as we speak right now. Maybe our brains aren't set up to have empathy for so many bad things happening at the same time everywhere. Ricker says there's just no such thing as AI right now, not in the wild anyways. Yeah, and Prue says, and who will benefit from it, and how? Who benefits? I love people who are smart enough to create great technologies, but who benefits from it first, right? Prue says, Joseph preach, the rich guys get the immortal, and healthy stuff first. And here's the thing, right? Here's the sole sum of all of our humanity and information in the entire world, yet I'm bombarded with like ads to buy crap and to get on social media and to trick my brain into wanting to like keep my head down and keep tapping it over and over again. You know what I mean? So while I love high technology, it is true, like, who gets it first? Who gets the benefit from it first? And I think maybe, are we supposed to feel, we can feel an empathy for our community and the people around us, but we also know that there are people suffering in the next county over, in the next country over, and around the world. And after a while, it sometimes feels like how much suffering can I feel before I become numb to it? Right? How many images of starving individuals and people dying and committing suicide and suffering in this world? How much empathy can I release until I'm just exhausted, emotionally exhausted, and don't feel anything any longer? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not advocating for people being, not caring about their fellow man. I'm saying that the cost of of having all this information around us is also making us not care about that information, right? It's too much of it. Going into the chat says, Joe says, yeah, the rich guys get their immortal and healthy stuff first. And Prue says, and they make sure they'll have the greater benefits. And what will be the cost of having it too? Right. The idea, not talking about the singularity of having one global AI, but there is AI now that is, for example, is allowing investors to make buy and sell investments at micro speeds, at the blink of an eye, at so fast that the average human being cannot keep up with the AI that is doing the investment, which means that the rich people will always have, the greater technology becomes, it means that the richer people will have the greater ability to remain rich, and the poorer people will have that much harder time to get the technology to keep up with the richer people, right? And so therefore, for example, we all know that if you get an app on your phone, if it's free, that means I'm the product, right? Every time I do something on Facebook or Google or any social media, I'm the product. They are keeping track of humanity's trends and how they can buy and sell that information to put themselves in a greater position. Now, if I want to make widgets, I'm just a lone individual. It's very hard for me to cut through the din of society so that I can sell my widget. But Amazon, which keeps track of everybody who's buying widgets online, can very easily go, oh, I know what widget people are buying. They're buying purple widgets today. Fling! Hey, by the way, while you're looking for this thing, here's this purple widget you might want, because they already have the information that you want purple widgets. I know it's getting to the we're past the hour mark, but Joe Keenan says, yeah, it gets overwhelming, but choose something and try to do something, even if it's one small thing, like give blood, bone marrow, food drives. And you know what? I know we're talking negatively and going like, oh, society's going downhill, but it seems like people are going like, you know what? It's not that I don't care about the rest of the world, but I care about my community. I see people really reaching out. Like, I'm going back to the local mom and pop shop. I want to give money back to my small community, even if it's a small thing. Hell, just around the corner from me, they're building a community vegetable garden, fruit and vegetable garden, because they're just like, listen, we got some land. We can go over there and plant stuff and get our own fruits and veggies for each other. We don't have to, buy them from being shipped from around the world just to get some friggin' bananas or cucumbers or tomatoes or something. We can do it ourselves. So while I do see humanity spiraling downhill, there are a ton of people like punching evil in the face and shooting up and going, F what's going on. I'm going to do something to help people out, whether it is like food drives or feeding people or blood drives or cleaning up the community. I do feel there are people who are bucking the trend and going and folding their arms and going, screw this. I don't want my community to go downhill, and I'm going to do something about it. So Prue says there's always groups of people that oppose the trend. And I do feel that that's the case. So, it's weird, but maybe information overload is kind of like separating us into little like micro communities. Like there's 20, I'm just coming off the top of my head. There's 20 people in a room, but they're all looking down at their phones because all 20 of them are in 20 individual groups. Maybe some of them overlap, maybe not. And so maybe that's what's happening with us, that we are collective, but we're all in our own worlds. And maybe that's just why I'm an extreme moderate, right? It's just, I just love common sense. And when I hear and see people scream and yell without realizing that how much damage they're doing to other people, I'm just like, please, just can we calm down just a little bit? Stop before we say something, before it's imprinted in social media forever, and realize that, you know what, there someone on the other side has a reason. I mean, look at our world today. I may not agree. Yeah, like micro tribalism. Oh, I like that. I like that term, micro tribalism. Shit, yeah. And you know, yes, today politically, it seems like people are selling, they are emotion peddlers, right? Facts, it's not so much the facts, it's the drive to get your emotions riled up, to get you to flow to one side or the other. And I'm just like, please don't punch me in my emotions like that. Don't sell me my emotions. I know what I want to feel like. And that's the thing that kind of annoys me. Micro tribalism. I like that, Joe. Rickard Johnson says, not to sound like a misanthrope, but humans in general don't want to have to take decisions and think for themselves on a whole. We might have information, but it's work to make sense of it all. Dude, I absolutely agree with you. Some people, it sounds wrong, but some people want to be the sheep, right? And it's not, it can come from being overwhelmed. You know, I know oftentimes my wife gets upset because after a 13-hour day, do I really want to worry about what we're going to have to eat? I'm just like, just make a decision. I don't really care. I just want to put my feet up. I'm tired. I don't care. And maybe that's what it is, right? You know, people in general are just like, just tell me what to do. I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what to do. Corey, well, hey, caught this one. Been listening later on at work. Love your discussions. Thanks. Thank you very much. And welcome. Thank you, Proof, for welcoming as well. Yeah. It's like, it's just the idea of like, hey, can we, don't sell me on something just to get me upset or to get me riled up. Like, sell me on the common sense part. And I guarantee you, I know you guys in the chat are just like, oh my God, like, are people really doing that? Like, are people really upset about this thing, this new thing? What was some viral thing that was really stupid? Um, oh, is the dress blue or gold or white or black or something? And people were getting all like upset about it. And I was just like, whatever. Like, is this really, is this what we've come down to? Like, is this a real thing? Like, we're arguing over Twitter pictures of whether you think the dress is blue or gold or something. Remember that? Oh, maybe we don't remember it because it came and went, right? Bruce says, I'm 98% sheep and I've decided to accept that. Oh, no, you don't. I'm going to tell you what to accept. No. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. It's Future Friday on Saturday. Thanks for the mental coffee. I love the mind fuel you guys give me. It's just great. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you for letting me becoming the nexus of what you guys talk about, because I'm not very smart. I'm just an average guy doing his thing. Old dude, you can see the grays. I gotta shave it down. Letting the neck beard go too far. But thank you very much. Oh, by the way, check down in the doobly-doo if you have any interest in dance. I'm giving you some pop Prue, that check out the new podcast by Prue that deals with dancing. And check that out. I mean, it's just it has to do with the arts. We are ending with Future Friday with the arts, so I thought I'd do a little pop there. And as a matter of fact, maybe just engage in some arts yourselves. And oh, by the way, if this gives you some kind of motivation, if you guys are creative, who says we're all aggressively average is part of what I like about us. Yeah, like we're right in the middle. It's like, we're more of the common sense, sit back, think about things, don't get so excited. Yeah. Oh no, anytime, Prue. And by the way, if you want me to push you a little bit, Just let me know. I'll do that. But again, thank you very much, guys. Next week we are talking blood. Everything and anything that has to do with blood, both viral, legacy, the whole 9 yards. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't like to write down notes. I like to just go, can we talk about this thing? Well, hell yeah. So we're going to do it. So that will be next week. Thank you for joining me. I've got to go off to work. I'll probably do another 12-hour day. Oh, so if I can kick anybody in the butt, if you've suffered this long through these live streams, I'm going to kick somebody in the butt out there, at least one individual, and that is this. I conditioned myself to get up at the crack of dawn to do these hour live streams, and it was hard, but I'm doing it. So I am going to challenge any of you creators out there, for whatever you're creating, that there is time for you to do it. I don't care if you're on the shitter. I don't care if you have to do something where you're driving back and forth to work. If you have to get up an extra 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour earlier, whatever, on your break time, there is time for you to engage in what you think you don't have time for, and for you to just do it. Just do it. Just get out there and do it. Will it fail? Maybe. Will people find it? It's hard to tell. Is there a chance that you can punch through the noise to be recognized for what you're doing? Hard to say. I can't make those promises. The majority of creative endeavors fail, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the beast. But you got to take a step forward. So yeah. So guys, thank you very much. I got to get ready for work, get washed up and get out of here, get some breakfast in me. So guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the birthday well wishes. I've read, and every one of them, I wasn't able to respond to them, which is something I'm probably going to try to do right now, if not later on. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a very great day. And this is RPG with DBJ. And